Fantastic. All right, so I guess we'll start episode 11 here. I'll do the intro on my own. Sticks.
Episode Sticks.
Just happens to work that way, I guess.
This is recording?
Yeah, for sure.
Good?
Yeah,
all right. Sort of in quarantine during COVID times. Your season gets cut short. You come home. What have you been up to? How's everything? How have you been handling it? What's been going on in your life as of the last couple months?
I get asked that a lot, actually. It's honestly been pretty standard. You know, you can't really do too much, so I get my working out in. I try to hang out with my girlfriend a good deal. Maybe a little too much.
Yeah.
See my buddies, play some golf, and just hang out with the family. You know, it's tough when you go away to school. You don't necessarily get to see them as much, so I use this opportunity to kind of catch up with them, and they're moving pretty soon, so we got to steal a couple months here that we didn't think we were going to get together, and it's been pretty fun.
No doubt. So we worked out together yesterday down the old man cave locker room style. I got a lot of Syracuse stuff, and you seem like you're very in tune with your workouts. When did that sort of start? Were you always working out down there? Did you have a trainer? How did that sort of begin?
Yeah, I've always kind of been on my own. Since I was young, I felt like it was an important part of the game to kind of be physically in shape and strong. And as I've grown up, I've realized it's not as important as I made it seem, and there's definitely other things that are more important. But I still keep up with weightlifting and conditioning and training, and I've always just kind of done it on my own, done some stuff that I've found online. And when I was younger at Cuse, I'd do the workout package that the trainer sent, and that was very good. But since 3 years ago, I think I've picked up kind of a CrossFit type style because I don't necessarily have to go out in the field and run, so I try to get my conditioning in with my weight training, and it's definitely, I think, helped me a lot in a variety of different areas.
So early on, like middle school, high school days, did you work out yourself, or did you have a trainer?
Myself. I also played football, so I would come in here into the Victor weight room and work out with the football team, and we would just do like meathead stuff, stuff with kids that wasn't necessarily the most functional or the best for you as an athlete, but just always like throwing around weights and making it happen.
So when did that start? Did that start in high school? Did you start moving?
Yeah, probably 9th grade, maybe even 8th grade. I would just I had an older brother, and he was super into it, so I kind of tagged along with him. And I'd probably say 8th grade, I started getting pretty serious into it. So
awesome. So I guess from meathead to lacrosse specific, how has your workouts developed over the years? What have you learned from it? Your biggest takeaways?
What biggest subtractions from what you were doing?
Yeah.
Kind of, you know what I mean?
Biggest subtractions.
What have you taken out?
Definitely.
You're into the HIIT workouts now.
Yeah, I take away kind of the specific body part days. So I don't really do like arm days or leg days or chest and back or any of the crazy things that people do. I kind of hodgepodge it all into one. So I'll have a specific strength workout, or maybe two, a superset of benching and hang cleans or squatting and RDLs, and then after that I kind of kick it into the CrossFit style stuff, and I'll do some sort of circuit with conditioning and CrossFit movements, functional movements, burpees, and just stuff to get you sweat and get your lungs going, so I don't have to go out and do my 400s or my running. So
my legs are sore today. My mad sore today. I hadn't touched any weights with my legs, and we did thrusters, maybe 30 total.
It's different because when you're strength training, you kind of do lower volume, heavier stuff, and then when you kick into that stuff and you're doing high reps and lighter weight, you get the best of both worlds, and that's definitely why you're feeling it.
It's just, and just Corona and just running pretty much. When you're obviously doing the strength training, the weightlifting, what's your kind of time split of in a gym doing strength stuff versus getting on a field and working on lacrosse skill stuff?
It's tough because it depends on kind of the time of the year. So in the off season, I'm definitely more focused on kind of my body and just having fun and weight training and eating well. And I get out on the wall. Well, I think wall ball is very important, which I'm sure we'll touch on later. 2-3 times a week, and I get out and shoot 2-3 times a week too. So probably an hour a day of some sort of exercise. I take a day or two off depending on how my body's feeling, and then just as frequently as I can, try 2-3 times a week, hit the wall, and 2-3 times a week, get some shots up.
I love it. I think as athletes, we're always trying to find what sort of works for us specifically. I think everybody's different. So you take one workout regimen, that doesn't really work for me, I don't like it. Like you talked about before, I just noticed you were we haven't even stretched, we haven't really done much. You got to focus on your body, play the long game. Have you been sort of educating yourself? Obviously, in the weight room, you sort of learn, but like beyond the weight room and like reading stuff and sort of take from that?
Definitely, yeah. I think back to my freshman year because being from Victor, stretching wasn't necessarily something we did very well. Coach Andre is a great coach, but he didn't really stretch us out before practice. That may have been his one flaw. So going into college, I didn't necessarily think it was that important. And playing a Division I lacrosse season as an 18-year-old, I walked off after we lost, and my body was just in shambles. And I was like, at 18 years old, I should not feel this way. This is not how things are supposed to go. People play professional sports for 15, 20-year careers. So there's a better way to kind of do it. So I really focused on, my big thing was nutrition. I wasn't necessarily eating right in the right proportions of stuff. So my body wasn't getting the fuel it needed to kind of sustain the whole season. And then stretching definitely before and after practice was a change I made sophomore year, and it definitely helped me out a crap ton. So those are definitely two big things that I'd say are equal in importance. Is you have to eat and fuel your body, or you're going to fall apart, and you also have to maintain the kinks and the mobility and work things out, or you're also going to fall apart. So
when you started picking up, so after freshman year, that's when you started just focusing more on the stretching and nutrition. How did you kind of come to what you were doing, putting into your body? Did you talk to like a nutritionist at school, and what did you kind of settle on, at least where you're at now? What have you kind of settled on for nutrition and just your go-to kind of staples that you're trying to hit?
Yeah, it was kind of a work in progress. Stuff has changed throughout, even since then, the past couple of years. But you're not going to like this answer, but my main source of information was Tom Brady's book. I bought the TB12 book, and you're a Bills fan, so I know that that's not your favorite person, but he's really into the whole kind of whole body approach and taking care of everything. And there's a ton of different things that go into maintaining your body, whether it's hydration or your training or your nutrition and stretching. And I really kind of took to that because I'm a big Tom Brady fan and respect his greatness, and he's able to do it. There's no reason I shouldn't be able to take care of my body. He's 40-something years old, so that was kind of the source of information for me. And then I did my own self-research into other professional athletes and how they take care of their bodies and different methodologies they have and things they do. So nowadays I am focused on eating high carbs. I think that works best for me in maintaining my soreness. I think if I get enough carbs in me, and good quality carbs, not crap, I feel like that kind of keeps my muscles in check and keeps it from dying.
Define good quality carbs.
Good quality. So it's like, my opinion, it's things that don't have gluten in them, I think, are high quality. So rice, potatoes, oats, things like that kind of get it done for me. I feel like the gluten makes me feel bloated and heavy, and my muscles don't necessarily take those as well. So
it's interesting. What are some takeaways from specific athletes like the TB12 that were like, I guess, eye-opening, that you're like, wow, I got to do more of this? And are there any specifics that you sort of do on a daily, on a weekly, from those guys?
Sure. Sleep, I guess.
Yeah.
Like I said, there was a ton of different things that they broke down, and it was really cool to see how much went into it and how many different focus areas there were. You really have to have everything checked in. If one's out of balance, you're really going to be in a world of hurt. So just one, the fact that everything has to be in line, and two, that I wasn't sleeping enough, which is a problem. So Tom would talk about how he gets 8 to 9 hours of sleep every night, and he sleeps certain hours, and those are the best for human performance, to sleep those hours. And you got to kind of make sure there's no TV. I used to always sleep with a TV. Try to no noise, no light, and just really make sure you're dialed in and sleeping like a rock so your body fully recovers. Those are the two things I definitely say, is just holistically how much there was, and then sleep is one that I was definitely lacking.
What are the hours?
Sleeps between I think 10 and 6 are like the best hours for human performance. So if you're sleeping, say you go to bed at 1 and wake up at 9 or whatever, that sleep is significantly less kind of healthy for you and better for your recovery than if you sleep 10 to 6. So that's why I've tried to get up early. I get up around 7. Most days I try to, and I feel like that helps me a lot.
Definitely. I'm about that. I think waking up early, it obviously sets you up for a great day. How about any sort of supplement style or like pre-workout stuff that you've maybe done in the past that you don't like, and now that you do now, that that you do?
Not many, honestly. I do whey protein just to kind of get some powdered protein in, because it's hard to eat 5-6 chicken breasts a day or whatever it is to meet your kind of required amount. So I do some whey protein. I've recently, the past 2 years, done creatine just because I feel like it helps your performance in many, many different ways. That's something some boys at school kind of got me into, and just makes you a better athlete all around, in my opinion, and there's no kind of known side effects. So I was comfortable enough to start that, and I've been doing that for 2 years now, and I've noticed a big difference. And then recently, like I said, I've been kind of focused on getting those good carbs in, and it's, again, hard to eat 5-6 quality meals with quality food. So I've got a carb supplement that has some BCAAs and electrolytes and just good quality carbs in it that I take a scoop or two of a day just to kind of meet that required number of carbs. So
before Sam jumps in, the creatine, that's something I've sort of looked into the last couple of weeks.
I've heard
I've never been for it. I'm like, it's something about like the water weight. I had nothing behind it. I was just saying it. And then they're saying me, because like I'm doing the series, and it's like game after game, and the creatine, what it does, it helps recovery.
Yeah.
And like that's like any like steroid, that's the biggest thing. It helps recovery, so you can get back in the gym and start hammering weights. So when do you do creatine, or how has it helped you in terms of obviously recovery, but any sort of
like when in the day?
When in the day.
I've looked into it, and there's no kind of time restraint on it. You can kind of take it whenever in the day. I tend to do it right after my workout with my shake that I make. I just throw it in there, and like you said, it does help with recovery. That's kind of the biggest benefit of it. It also helps you kind of last longer, where you get that burning feeling where you feel like you want to tap out. It kind of prolongs that. It's supposed to help your mental. Apparently there's some brain effects that it's really good for your brain, and I don't know, it's just a variety of different things that were all positive, so I felt like it was worth kind of giving it a shot, and it's definitely been great. So
I've read some Rhonda Patrick. I started taking creatine a little before Corona, when I was like actually working out and stuff. I would like take it, but apparently like helps get more water to your muscles right away. Like your muscles can absorb more water.
Right.
So it's like she was saying, you can take it before a workout or after or both, and it's like beneficial either way.
I think I'm gonna mix it in now.
So looking through going back through your career, obviously you were a pretty highly touted kid in high school. I remember when you transferred to Victor, obviously there was a lot of hype around you. You were kind of an early commit to Cuse and everything like that. But looking back, going from coming to Victor to where it's obviously probably a little bit better program, you were playing with a better team, and then getting to Cuse, how have you kind of progressed as a lacrosse player? And looking back, what are some things that you kind of wish you started working on earlier? And just how have you progressed? What have been your strengths and weaknesses? How have you worked on those? Just what is your kind of just journey to where you're at now look like?
It's a good question. There's obviously a lot to kind of unpack there, but
sorry. Sometimes I ask too many questions.
No, it's good.
Honestly, sometimes I'll be on Zoom and
there's a lot of different ways.
I asked 3 questions.
There's a lot of different ways I could go, but so I grew up in Greece, which is about a half hour from Victor, and the talent there just isn't kind of where it is here in Victor. Youth programs aren't kind of as run as well here, so that the talent really isn't up to par there. So I kind of moved from there here to have a better lacrosse program, which it definitely was. We kind of won 2 state championships, and that was great. But going to college, I think the main takeaway I had early on was that I wasn't going to get away with the stuff that I did in high school at the college level. So that includes shooting kind of underhand, low to high. That's something I had to change kind of right away, because I was getting stuffed by the goalies. My shots were always fast in high school, so I could kind of get away with shooting crappy locations and just kind of blasting it by them. But at the college level, the goalies were obviously much better, and they were ready for that, and I was making myself look like an idiot. So I kind of had to transition to an overhand high to low or high to high shot, but just one where I could tuck it behind my body and not necessarily be so predictable and have it be so visible to the goalie. So that was big shooting wise, and the other would be my dodging. I kind of was a stickler for alley dodging in high school, and I would kind of make my living that way, and it's a habit I got into when the players weren't as good in high school, and I could kind of blow right past them. But in college, I had to change that up and change my angles of attack and kind of work on getting to the middle of the field more. And I remember there was a a game in high school. We were playing in the sectionals something, and I was going against Jared Connors, who obviously was fantastic at the time and is still a great player in college. And you were on the sideline, Sam, and he was kind of having his way with me, and I wasn't making much happen. And you came up to me like, dude, you have to like change it up. You keep doing the same thing like over and over again. I don't know why that stuck with me, but when I got to college and was having the same troubles, I remembered your ass getting in my face about it, and you kind of flipped the switch to me. So I definitely had to change my dodges and verify things a little bit and just throw more variety at the defenseman, and that's definitely paid off. So, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. And you said yesterday our sort of games are similar. I've seen some clips since then. It's like, sort of where did you make your strides from like changing your game and being more that cerebral player like you got?
Yeah, a variety of different ways, honestly. So the first was changing my shooting. I used to get harped on a lot by Coach and Coach Desco and even the announcers on our games when I was younger, Ryan Powell and such, would kind of rip into me. They'd say I was a great player and could get a shot off kind of whenever I wanted, but I would always waste it and put it right in the goalie stick, and I'd have a bunch of turnovers that way, and I was kind of being counterproductive. So that harsh criticism really hit home, and I really took that to heart and went out and worked on my shooting stroke and worked on, because you can't just start shooting the ball low and doing it well, you know. Right. You kind of have to learn how to yank it down there and not show that you're shooting low and dropping your stick. So you can't just go out and start shooting low. It doesn't work that way. So it took me a year or so, my sophomore year, to figure out how to do that and the best way to put shots past the goalie. And since then, I've kind of been pretty consistent with my step-down shooting. But the other side is dodging as a midfielder. And when I was a sophomore, we had 2 freshmen come in, which I play with now, and they're my best buddies, but Tucker Dordovic and Brendan Curry. And they were fantastic dodgers, just lightning quick and very polished. And I wasn't there yet, even though I was a year older than them. I had a lot to learn. I looked down to them to kind of for guidance and took a lot of their moves, and we worked after practice and stuff like that on how to shake a guy and not necessarily just be predictable with an alley dodge, and how to get to the middle of the field and shoot coming over the top and not down the alley every time. So there's been a lot of improvement that I've made in my college career, and I think that's why I've enjoyed it so much. Is it wasn't very easy for me coming off the bat. I had some early success and found the field and got to play, but I wasn't necessarily a great player by any means. So the growth and kind of learning the ins and outs of the game and how to become a very good player, a very good midfielder has been a cool experience.
Right, yeah, I can attest to that. Honestly, taking pieces of somebody's game, I think, has been my biggest part of my development. It's like I learned literally 2 weeks ago we played a game with PLL guys, and I moved from Gutty, and I just took it. I'm like, I'm going to start doing this now.
Yeah, it's the best way.
I did it later on, and I was like, wow, this works perfect. So it's definitely huge taking pieces of people's games.
That's something for like a life, honestly.
Yeah,
you
really
look to successful people and see how they're doing things, and you kind of shorten the learning curve that way. They're doing it, they're successful with it. There's no reason why if I emulate that, I can't have success too. So that's definitely a big thing I've learned in college.
No doubt.
Who have been your, whether it was when you were a freshman or just going through, who have been your kind of biggest mentors that you've tried to emulate, whether it be on the field or off the field, and what have you kind of learned from them the most, outside just obviously Dordovic and Curry?
On the team or just in general?
And whether on the team or just off the team, like whoever, just mentors, people you look up to.
Yeah, so early on my freshman year, I came in and got to play with 2 first-team All-Americans, which was Salcido and Mariano, and they obviously kind of showed me the ropes of how to handle being a high-level Division I lacrosse player and set the standard work-wise. And I watched them put in the extra time in the weight room and on the field, and that kind of showed me how things aren't just going to come. You got to work for them. Even if great players are having great years, it's not because it's by chance or by luck. It's because they're kind of willing it. So early on, it was them, and since then, I used to watch all successful players around the Division I landscape. I used to watch Connor, actually, and we kind of take some stuff from him, and just other players. Ryan Brown, when I was younger, was big because, like I said, I had to relearn how to shoot. Yeah. So I would watch film on him, and just because he's obviously one of the best shooters in the world, and his overhand release was something I tried to emulate. So I don't know. There's many players, like I said, that take stuff from all over and just try to put it in my own game.
Right. So going back to like high school, was it always lacrosse? You played other sports, but did you were like, hey, I want to play in college? When did that sort of start?
So I played football in high school, and I like to think I was pretty good. I don't know how good I actually was. But I was a quarterback, 5'11" quarterback, so I really knew I wasn't going to make it very far with that. I obviously loved the game, and it was my first love for sure, and me and Sam kind of have shared that. We both love football like crazy, so it was hard to stop playing football, but I knew I was pretty logical and realistic that I wasn't going to make it in football necessarily as much as I could in lacrosse. So I kind of shift my focus in my freshman and sophomore year to being lacrosse full-time and focusing on doing the recruiting stuff and the camps and developing my game there, and then I just kind of played football for fun and obviously enjoyed it. There's nothing like high school football, but I knew early on that lacrosse was going to be my route.
Right. So what did you learn from, obviously you had an older brother going through the pipeline, what did you learn from him just in the recruiting process of how that sort of went? Obviously it was different for everybody. Probably I was down to like sophomore year, it started clicking down to freshman, 8th graders, ridiculous. So what did you learn and your biggest takeaways during that process?
It was wild, honestly, because I was part of that the early period there where people were getting recruited 8th, 9th grade. So for me, it happened 9th grade. I was playing Sweet Lax and went to Maverick Showtime and a bunch of different recruiting camps like that, and I would get phone calls all the time, and it was definitely kind of a whirlwind. I think I was 14 years old, and I wasn't really ready for that, to make that sort of big decision. But what it came down to for me was I always dreamed of playing at Syracuse, and I'm a big family guy. My family all stays relatively close, so we knew what we wanted me to play somewhere where they could come and support me, and I could come home, and I do that all the time. I come home on the Sundays usually and have some dinner with my family, and they're at every game, and so Syracuse was kind of the logical pick for me. If there was like anything else in upstate New York, it kind of would have rivaled Syracuse, but Syracuse was the only one I talked to, and I knew I wanted to stay close to home, and I loved watching them play when I was growing up, so Syracuse was kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah. So was that the bigger piece of the recruiting, being closer to home and being around your family? Was that your biggest sort of take? Yeah,
like I said, I was 14 years old, so I was pretty nervous to venture off and go somewhere. I talked to North Carolina and Duke, and I was really considering them because they're obviously great schools and great programs, and it would be a lot of fun to go, but I was 14 years old, and I didn't really have the gall to make that decision and move away from my family.
Yeah.
So, being close to home was huge, honestly, and it still is. It's my favorite part of going to Syracuse.
Definitely.
Looking back, things obviously been pretty successful through your career. If you could talk to yourself, say, before you started getting recruited, just knowing what you know now and what works for you, what would be the biggest things to tell yourself to do the same or to do differently that stick out to you?
So the same, I would say, just keep working, because I've always had that trait, I guess you could call it, is just kind of working for whatever you want to do. If you want to achieve anything, it's not just going to come, you got to work for it. So early on, I was always practicing and working on my game and trying to get better, and that's definitely paid off, and something I still do now. I still go out on the field and try to fix my game up and take things from other people and get better. But something I would tell myself not to do. That was the other part.
Yeah.
I guess spend so much time worrying about what looks cool on the field, I would say, and more about being an efficient kind of player. I would always kind of want to have the highlight reel goal or the top corner shot, and I'm sure everyone as a kid wants to do that because that's the fun part of the game. But I feel like I wasted a lot of years playing that way and not necessarily just putting the ball in the net. I guess that comes with maturity, and when you're younger, you just want to have fun and play for fun. But if you can learn at a young age how to take what's given to you, take the low shots, score goals, it's more fun to have 4 or 5 goals in a game than to have one highlight reel. So that's one thing I would definitely tell myself.
Were there known experiences? I don't like to call them failures, but I guess like people like to label them that. But like known scenarios that you learned like a big lesson from, whether it was the technical side of lacrosse or just yourself in general. Like I can't be doing that again.
Yeah, there's a few. I made a couple of mistakes in my day.
Yeah.
But lacrosse-wise, let's stick with that. I have been cut from a few different teams when I was probably 5th, 6th grade. I was cut from a local team, travel team around here. Coach is actually a long-time college coach in this area, and he cut me, and I still am bitter to him for that, but it kind of kicked me into high gear and made me realize that I wasn't all that. Even though I was in 6th grade, I still knew I had a lot of work to do if I wanted to get to where I wanted to go. So I did, and we kind of grinded for a couple of years there, and I eventually went back and tried out for that team again, kind of around the time when I was getting attention from schools, and I made the team, and we kind of told them to kick rock. So that was a good way to kind of cap that off. But I also got cut from the USA U19 team when I was a junior, I think it was. We came off a state championship, and I thought I was all that, and went and got cut at the tryouts, first round. So that kind of opened my eyes that I was going to have to work very hard if I wanted to play in college. Just because I'm a good high school player doesn't mean I'm going to make it at the next level, because there's a lot of guys clearly that made the team that were better than me, and if I wanted to play on their level, I had some work to do. So those two cuts I kind of used as motivation, as fuel to get better, not necessarily as negatives.
Were those learning experiences from just like complacency or just lack of preparation, or what do you think was the main takeaway?
I don't know, honestly. I think I was working my butt off. I just wasn't doing the right stuff. Mm-hmm. And like I said, I was worried about looking cool and doing cool things and having highlight reel goals instead of just putting the ball in the net. And I think if I learned that earlier on, I probably would have made those teams and would have been like in consideration with those guys as the top players in my class going in. So
you mentioned at the time, those were the kind of players you want to be. You want to, make the U19 team, be the best player in your area and everything. And now you're talking, hopefully you play pro in the future, and you look at someone like Connor, like kind of take things from their game. Looking forward, aspirations to play pro, what are kind of the things that you are still looking at yourself and like, I need to get better here? What are just some weaknesses in your game now that in order to play at the next level, obviously you don't know what's going to happen, but in your head now, what are things that you're kind of thinking about that you need to get better at and are working on a lot?
Yeah, there's a lot, honestly. The two that I'll pick out are two that are pretty obvious in my opinion, and I think in a lot of people's opinion. And the first one would be my vision and my kind of ability to get my teammates involved. I'm more of a goal scorer, I'd say, at this point. You look at my stat lines, and my buddies pick on me for it. I'll have like 30 points, whatever, and I'll be a 28-2. Yeah. So it's like I got to work on that for sure. I got to get other people involved and dodging my head up, and I'm working on it, and it's something that just comes through playing. So the more I play in the off season, the more I try to focus on that. And then the other is defense. I get picked on a lot for it, not being the best defensively. My defensive coordinator has headaches with me when I'm out there and get stuck, and he's actually told me, it's a funny story, if there's a situation where I'm stuck on the field and I could get off or I could get back on defense, but I look to the sidelines and there's a nuclear explosion on the sidelines, because I want you diving headfirst into the nuclear blast. Like, I don't want you getting back on defense. So I'm that bad kind of at playing someone one-on-one, and I never really had to. In high school, I'd play offense, and we had TD, so he'd win the ball, and we'd go down and score, and then I'd go off, and he'd win the ball again, and I'd go on, and we'd score. And it's hard to guard somebody, so I definitely have to work on that, being a more complete midfielder and being able to play both ways.
We talk about, like, needing to get your head up more and just playing defense. Is there anything that you do or can do to work on that on your own, like while you're home, getting ready for next season before you get to Cuse in the fall? Because obviously, like, the defense and like just getting your teammates involved, I'm sure a big piece of that is just playing a lot more with your guys and stuff like that. But just when you're by yourself, is it something that you're just like thinking about, or do you try to like not look down the alley while you're by yourself? Is there anything you do to help yourself defensively on your own, or is it just kind of waiting to get back in the fall and work on it? Like,
I haven't necessarily this summer had the chance to play too much because of the virus, and there hasn't been any tournaments or anything, and like Placid just got canceled. So usually I play in men's leagues in the summers and go to Placid and do a couple things where I get to play and work on my game, and at those events I'll definitely focus more on, because I don't at this point necessarily care about scoring goals at those things. It's more about working on the things I need to work on. So I'll go and try to focus on squeezing the ball in some tight lanes and passing and getting some apples, but I haven't this summer, so I need to figure out a way to kind of work on that more if I really want to develop that. And then defensively, just really working on it in practice and in men's league, trying not to let anyone score on you and actually caring, because that's a big part of it for me. Is I have to care and like take it as a personal kind of thing, not to let someone score on me. Whereas in high school, I didn't really have that. When in college, if you don't care and you're out there on defense, your team's gonna smack you in the face. So those would be the two. I don't know. I just gotta figure out ways to work on them. I still am yet to figure it out this summer, but I will at some point.
Yeah, it's definitely tough to work through. I remember like each year at Maryland, like my position sort of changed. Like my freshman year was like second line, and I just tried to be like a role player. Sophomore year, I was the initiator on the first line, and I just had to draw the slide. That was my biggest goal. And I think what changed, I had sort of the same stat line. I was just like goal scorer. Until senior year, I had to change. And I sort of changed my dodging, where it was like I never focused on looking at the net. I don't know what it was. I would never look at the net whenever I dodged. I would look at the slide guy. That was the only guy I would stare at the whole time. Because then once I saw that, I could see the whole field on where everybody's plugging in, where's the support. And I think that's what helped me a ton, was just reading that slide. That's all I would look at whenever I'm dodging. I'm like, I'm not focused on this one-on-one. I know I could beat you. Focus on the slide guy. So that was my biggest sort of step in terms of getting that vision.
That's cool.
Piece was huge. But I guess going to Syracuse, a lot of history there. I know a lot of talent every year. I mean, no disrespect, but I just remember being at Maryland and be like, I felt like you guys couldn't get out of your own way sometimes. Sort of what have you learned? I guess you're a leader now on the team. Sort of what have you learned in terms of like, not change, but you guys want to emphasize in terms of your season?
Yeah, we had a coaching change this year, which I think was big for us, because our past coach was a great guy and definitely knew a lot about the game, but it was what we were running was a little dated, in my opinion. So we have some new ideas in there with our new coach, and he's pretty smart and does a great job. So that change in offense and change in style, I think, has helped us a lot. We had some success this past year. And the old offense, I think, was pretty scoutable, and people had been going against it for 100 years or whatever it was. So that kind of held us back personally. And then locker room wise, it's just you have to love each other if you're going to kind of be out there and be successful. We didn't necessarily, in my younger years, have teams that loved each other, is the way I'll put it. And I think that held us back. Guys were more focused on kind of themselves and having fun off the field and doing well on the field stat-wise and accolade-wise. And that really didn't work out well for us. We had a lot of talent, but we couldn't put it together and get big wins when it mattered. When this team now, I feel like we have a bunch of guys that really do love each other and are best buddies, and we hang out on and off the field, and we want what's best for each other on and off the field for sure. So that seemed to be paying off. We only played 5 games, but we'll get most of those kind of core group of guys back next year to go at it again. So
how has your sort of leadership changed throughout your years in terms of, are you more of a vocal guy? How do you sort of carry yourself? Everybody tries to, be themselves, but obviously you sort of have to step up a little as a leader. What have you sort of focused on?
I'm definitely vocal. As you can tell, I like to talk, so I definitely put my 2 cents in there whenever I feel like it's necessary, and I tend to focus more on the things we can control and the on-the-field stuff. The off-the-field stuff is what it is, and we have kind of other captains that focus on keeping guys in line there. But I'm more focused on the running things right and the X's and O's and how we can make sure that we're going to go out there and win, and we're not going to make fools of ourselves, and how to prepare at practice each week, make sure guys are giving it, busting their butt at practice. And that's kind of my approach. I focus more on the lacrosse because I feel like that's where I know what I'm talking about. So I feel like that's where my voice and my criticism and stuff will actually matter. So I keep it kind of on X's and O's, and I feel like I do a pretty good job. So,
what was kind of the process like? So we talked to TD about it a little bit, but we just with like getting the 5th year cut short, obviously, and then getting your 6th year. And with TD, it was obviously a different situation with Yale with just the eligibility stuff. But at Cuse, what was kind of the process like for you guys? Was it like, we talked about it a little bit, but just obviously from when the season ended and you didn't know whether or not you were going to go back, what was kind of the deciding factor of you are definitely going back, and how did that kind of come up? And did you like talk to everyone in your class and about like, if I come back, everyone else has to come back, or what was that kind of like? How did that kind of play out?
So when it ended, we all were obviously devastated, and that lasted about a day or two, because then the announcement came out that we would get eligibility back, and right when that kind of announced, the switch went off in all of our heads, and we focused more on how can we make that happen and less on feeling sorry for ourselves. So our season was canceled. We kind of had our nights with the boys, and we're sulking and we're emotional, and then once that came out, everyone was pretty much on the same page for the senior class wise. Anyone that saw like significant time at least and would be able to come back. So we all immediately kind of focused on the conversations we needed to have with the people in our lives that would allow us to do that. For me, it was my family, my parents, and my future boss. So I had a job lined up, so I had to clarify with him that it'd be okay to forego kind of starting this summer and push it to next summer and go back and spend another year. And he was great about it. He was all for it, and told me I had my whole life to work, which is true, and that he'd punch me if I didn't go back, and because he would kill to be in my shoes. So he was super cool about it, and that was something I obviously had to clarify and make sure it was okay, because it's kind of difficult to get a job. So I had one. I didn't want to lose it, and I know other guys went through that same situation, and it's worked out for most of them. So family-wise, you had to make sure financially and stuff like that was going to work for everyone, and our program kind of reached out to alumni, and they've done a great job of supporting us and being able to make sure that could happen for a variety of people. So those were the conversations we had to have, and we had them, and thank God it worked out for us, because we're all pretty pumped to get back there.
What are you going to have to like take classes next year? Are you just going to be just chilling like one class, or what's that look like?
Syracuse has these 1-year certificates that you can take, like if you're working, say, and you want to go back part-time, you can take a 1-year, it's 15 credit certificate. So that's what I'm going to do, and I don't know kind of what other guys are doing fully. I know some guys are doing the same as me, but it's a 1-year certificate that's just 15 credits.
If your boss wasn't chill, or you're quitting that job?
Am I quitting that job?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. That'd be a tough decision. It'd be hard to give up a year, but this is a great opportunity, and also be hard to give that up. So thank God I didn't have to have those thoughts.
Yeah.
It was kind of one conversation.
Yeah.
Within a couple minutes, I knew like he was on board, so that would be tough.
Talk about like preparation a ton, and focus on being in the weight room now. I guess now you're in season. What is sort of your preparation? 36 hours, 24 hours before game day. What do you focus on? Change up.
I kind of try to keep it the same each week. I don't really change things depending on who we're playing. I focus on me and making sure I'm ready. I'll look at the scouting report, and I'll watch a little bit of film on the goalie, but I don't look too far into things. Again, focus more on myself and make sure my stick and my shots are dialed in, and focus on the team, make sure we're running the offense right and we're executing our game plan, whatever that may be for the week, and just little stuff like that. Obviously making sure I'm getting quality sleep, quality food, quality hydration, and I stretch out, and I'm ready to roll. So game day, I do a bunch of different stuff that I do each game day. People may think it's a little wacky, but I have a little routine that I do. And
what's that?
Let's hear it, yeah.
You want to hear it?
Expand, yeah.
I start in the morning, I guess. I wake up and I get my breakfast, obviously, and then
Let's go back. Let's go 36 hours before. So like
a couple days
day
before.
No, so like go to bed the night before the day before the game.
All right, that's actually good. So night before the game, I usually watch my film, watch the goalie, see how he reacts to certain things. Like I said, I don't like to look too far into it, just get a little bit of a feel on how he plays, and then I read my scouting report, because that's obviously important, and you got to make sure you're knowing people's hands and stuff like that in case you do get stuck on defense. So I make sure I know those. Get to bed, decent hour, get some sleep, 9 hours or so. Wake up, and like I said, that's where I was going to start. Eat my breakfast, make sure I'm getting my carbs in. I try to keep it low fat, because fat doesn't digest very well and sits in your system. So try to keep it low fat, high carb, high protein, and after that is when I recently have started. I break out like a little journal, and I kind of document what I want to do that day and how I want to play, and I write down some goals for myself. And I've recently started doing that this past season, and I think it really helps when you put things on paper. I read something, I've heard it many times, that if you write something down, it's 2.5 more times likely to happen. So I've took that to heart, and I definitely sit there for about half an hour and write out some things that I want out of the game and things I want to improve on from last week and stuff goals I have for myself. And after that, I put that away, and then I go over to the field house and usually get some shots, play some wall ball. Then we have team lunch or team meal, whatever it may be, and I make sure I'm eating clean there again, and then head over to the dome or wherever we're playing and stretch out and tape up my stuff, ankles and stick, and just get ready to play. So.
Is there anything post-game you do recovery-wise for stuff like that?
Not immediately after, no. I hang out with the guys and have some fun, but the next day we do have recovery workouts that our trainer prescribed if you want to do them, and I usually go do those.
Yeah.
Hit the assault bike, get some blood flow, and do the recovery boots and hop in the ice bath, whatever that may be, whatever I'm feeling.
So I guess back to sort of like the workout stuff, is there anything that your like habits changed in terms of just like preparation for lacrosse, like lacrosse-centric workouts, or has that changed in the last couple of years and what you're focused on?
Workout-wise?
Yeah, just like maybe even like shooting-wise, how your game's changed. You talked about that. Has any habits changed that you sort of do on a daily, weekly?
Yeah, when I go out to shoot now, I used to go out and shoot for fun, so I'd go out and just kind of rip it from all over the field and shoot underhand, shoot sidearm, shoot crazy. Now I kind of know that that's not the best approach, and I go out with kind of a tactical plan of where I want to shoot from and why I'm doing that, looks I get in the games, and I take realistic shots and make sure I'm shooting kind of overhand and I'm shooting at a variety of different corners, and I think that's going to help take my game to the next level, because when you go out and practice, you have to practice like you play, what people say, and if you're going out just for fun and messing around, when it comes time to play in a game and there's a last second shot or something like that, you're not going to really be prepared as well as you would be if you practiced it and hit that shot 1,000 times. So,
no doubt.
Do you only journal before games, or do you do anything like during the summer?
Just right now, just before games, but it worked for me pretty well. I played pretty well. I don't know if that's correlated, but if it continues to treat me pretty well, maybe I'll extend it into other areas of life.
Yeah, might as well stick with it.
Yeah, I think you seem obviously, talker but confident guy. Is there any times in your career sort of maybe you second guessing yourself, like, am I doing the right thing? Am I good enough? That confidence piece, like the mental health, I think is huge these days, and nobody likes to talk about it, but is there any like points in your career like I need to start focusing on this?
Absolutely. Like I said, I wasn't a great player early on. I was really struggling. My freshman year, I kind of came in, was able to hide behind the 2 All-Americans I was playing with. But when they left in sophomore year, I was kind of given the reins as the guy, and I was getting the pull, and I was kind of team's first person to take away. I really, really struggled. I couldn't really create much for myself, and when I was getting step-down shots, I was shooting them stupid underhand into bad locations and stuff like that. So my freshman or sophomore year, I really had like a slump, and I was really struggling and kind of all over the place in my head. So I had to, just the way I dealt with it, I worked. I just kind of went and watched film on people and critiqued my own game, and just kind of would shoot every day and focus on how I could improve, and that paid off. And I, towards the end of the year, started to figure things out a little bit, and that translated into my junior year. But what really helped me, I think, the summer going into my junior year was I latched onto like the concept of studying the mindsets of professional people. So I would I would watch like Kobe Bryant videos and Tom Brady videos and just see how they think and how they approach the process of getting better. And it's more about focusing on and loving kind of the process of becoming great, not necessarily being great. So it's in the kind of the pursuit of excellence, not necessarily being great in itself. So that's where you grow and where you find happiness. So
no doubt. Love the process.
Yep.
100%. So what are some of your, biggest takeaways, family guy, but biggest takeaways from just being in the COVID times, and what you've learned from, maybe experimented with, and that you're going to do after?
Oh, that's tough. I guess I've been able to reach out more because I've had more time on my hands to some people that I haven't necessarily maintained relationships with through school, and some old buddies, and spending time with them and just texting and catching up. So that's something that I've obviously enjoyed a lot and showed me I didn't really I let that part of my life go a little bit while I was so focused on school, as I didn't maintain all the relationships that I had, say, in high school or even childhood and stuff like that. So definitely rekindling those and just always being willing to reach out to people and stay connected is really important. So,
what are some bad recommendations you hear in your area of expertise? So any bad recommendations you hear from coaches or players just when it comes to lacrosse that you disagree with? I feel like you're usually kind of polarizing. Like you like to look at things differently.
I don't like when people say it's not the wand, it's a wizard. That kind of drives me up a wall. Because the stick is in my opinion, it's very important.
Yeah.
If your stick's not right, it's not going to make you like a great player just by changing your stick. So anyone that's listening doesn't think that's the case, but it definitely does play a huge role. And if your stick's not kind of dialed in, your game's not going to be dialed in. So it's not that saying pisses me off. I don't like when people say that.
Was that A, who kind of does your sticks, and B, was that a hard transition getting to college, or did you use like the Cuse, like Nike heads, like through high school? Was that kind of calculated?
No, I didn't think about it in high school. I always strung my own. So in high school, I would do my own, and then in college, I just took whatever mesh they kind of gave me, and I tinkered with my what head I used and my pattern for a few years there in the beginning, and eventually I landed on one that I really liked, and I do all my sticks the same way now. I make sure my backups are the same, and everything's strung the same shaft, same head, same tape job. Everything's the same. So
that was something that, like, for me in Maryland, it took me so long. Like I didn't use an Under Armour head like getting into college, and then I got to college and I got like an Under Armour head like right before college, like the summer. I remember Grant Catalino gave me one.
I remember.
And then I got
used it up here.
And then I got to school, and like Tillman was telling me that like I had too much whip in my stick. I needed to change it up, and it like fucked with me pretty hard. Like honestly, it's so hard to like figure out, and like that's definitely something that I would suggest for younger kids is like if you know what school you're going to, like it seems obvious to us, but like you gotta start getting acclimated to that stick like definitely as soon as possible.
It is huge. I mean, now it's like I played with a different brand of sticks. Now after college, it was all Under Armour. Then I couldn't use Under Armour in the outdoor because I was using the sponsor. So I've changed. I went from Strength King to Warrior to STX, and now to ECD. Used Epic a little bit. And it was like everyone was different, and it truly is. It's like if you you can't trust your stick, you're not gonna have a good day.
Well, you're not gonna be confident.
It fucks your confidence.
Yeah. Confidence is huge.
It's everything. So
if you can't have confidence in your stick,
you're
not gonna play well. So it is the wand, man. It's not the wizard.
It's a huge
piece.
It's a huge piece. Yeah. People don't like to talk about it.
Right.
Have to have it in play, like dialed in, or it's bad news.
So I guess back to your workout. So if you had going up to a game day or just your standard week of working out, whatever, maybe you work 20 hours a week, if you were cutting it down to like 10% of your workouts to get ready for a game, what would you do to focus on being ready?
It's at 10% of like my week.
Yeah, your week.
If you did 6 hours a week or 10 hours, this is easier math. If you did 10 hours a week of work, but you can only do 1 hour in a week, what would be your ideal 1 hour? 1 hour work week.
That's hard, and that embodies everything. Like everything I do.
Yeah. So I just pick the most important, beneficial.
Yeah. You're right. I would definitely do some sort of wall ball. Wall ball, I think, is huge. It's something I've picked up towards the back half of my career that I never used to do through high school, and even my freshman and sophomore year, I just wouldn't do it. I didn't think it was important, but it's definitely huge. So I'd probably spend most of that hour playing on the wall if that's the only hour I had. Just because you can do so much, and it gets your stick dialed in and helps you feel like you have control, and you can practice a bunch of different moves and stuff on the wall. So wall ball would be most of the hour, I'm sure. I'd get some shots just because you have to, and probably if I had time, I'd try to squeeze in some sort of quick conditioning type workout just to make sure I'm in shape and I can run up and down the field.
Are you trying to like mix conditioning in when you were going out and shooting? Do you try to like mix in the conditioning? Like, are you trying to get like game reps, like sprinting down alleys and stuff? Or are you trying to like mix that in together?
It depends on the time of the year. Right now, I don't necessarily go out with my cleats on and and dodge hard and stuff like that, and make sure I'm sweating. I just go out and shoot around, make sure my stick's dialed in, and I'm maintaining kind of my skills. And towards the season, say in the winter when it's preseason, I'll throw the cleats on and go out and do realistic dodges and spend some time running up and down the field and down the alley and over the middle and get realistic shots because it's closer to go time. So,
in high school, what was your how did you kind of allot time to lacrosse throughout the year? Did you play lacrosse all year and then football came around and just drop your stick and not touch it for a couple months, or how did you kind of did you mix in some lacrosse here and there, or just what was your...
No, it was exactly that, what you said. I would play lacrosse for 3 seasons out of the year. In the winter, we'd have indoor games, and in the spring, I'd play for school. In the summer, I'd play travel. And then in the fall, my stick would go in the closet or wherever, in my garage, and I would just focus on enjoying football and developing my relationships with the boys on the team and trying to be the best quarterback or player I could be. And watched football and never even really thought about lacrosse there for a couple months until it was go time again.
Yeah, that's kind of me too, I feel like. But you're talking about wall ball, and just looking at my career through Maryland, just obviously short career at Maryland, but just getting to school and obviously I was always growing up, it was I could always pass and catch. Right. It was I thought
it's important.
I just need to just hammer my right hand and just hammer my shooting. And then I got to Maryland, it was I was just a little behind stick work wise, and I was just... My biggest regret was just fucking around and just shooting at practice the whole time. It was damn, I could have been on the wall for 2 hours every single day during practice, and I was just worried about shooting. And then you get to Maryland, and it's if you can't pass and catch with everyone at the same level, you can't even get a shot off. And that was just, for me, it was I'd be fucking up in stick lines and stuff like that, and just it just snowballed so fast, and just... That's so big for your confidence. Just that's literally the biggest thing to start. Is just start square one. Like I said, just looking back, and that's kind of the reason for this stuff. Is just knowing what you should be working on. Just for me, it was my biggest regret was just not just hammering the wall for hours a day, and just I feel I just wasted so much time. But obviously, gotta learn the hard way. But as far as if we have 2 kids listening to this right now, definitely the wall ball thing is so huge, and just you can't get to where you're going if you don't have that shit dialed in.
People hear their youth coaches or whatever tell them to hit the wall, and they think it's nonsense and it goes in one ear not the other, but it actually is. You play too a lot?
I do it effectively. I honestly go maybe 15 minutes. We got 326 here.
326, yeah.
And I'll do I think it just compounds where I'll do 10 minutes a day, 10, 15 minutes a day, especially when I was at Maryland, and it would just compound and I'd be good. Do you do more than that, or do you? Yeah.
Usually it's only 50. I have a little routine I go through where I do some moves and stuff, because you got to work on your hand placement on moves and stuff, and just making sure you're dialed in both hands, and probably spend 15-20 minutes.
Yeah, biggest thing is just more wrists, all angles, developing that strength too, and obviously catching the ball back. That's the biggest thing I focus on. Yeah. So, I guess the last couple questions here.
Last couple questions. Ooh, the time, we're getting a little cut for time.
Yep.
If you had, let's try the $100 question. If you $100 most beneficial purchase under $100 that brings you the most joy.
I heard you ask that one earlier, and I was trying to think of stuff on my own. I still couldn't think of anything. I had time to prepare for this, and I still. I don't know. I recently bought these golf shorts from Target. They were $20. I had 6 pairs because they're all really nice. They don't ride up your crotch at all, and they show off the thighs a little bit. So those are pretty nice.
All right, I just thought of a better question actually. So, your dad. We talked to TD about his dad. Obviously, high school football coach. Borderline psycho. You could probably give to him.
Yep.
Obviously, love that guy, but he's a different human being.
Yep.
And then with your dad, I know your dad is obviously a little bit out there, he's definitely pushing you, has some unorthodox things going on. What was your kind of experience like with him? Was he pushing you insanely hard? I know he's your biggest fan, but what did he kind of instill in you at an early age? And if you have any good stories of just something that you look back and you're damn, that was crazy.
Yeah, he's nuts. He really is. There's no other kind of way to describe him. He's just a nutty dude, and he's very passionate about whatever he cares about. He's very passionate about it, and he kind of instilled that in me. And he taught me how to work hard. You know, he is super hardworking and is like super high energy person, is always doing something. I took that and kind of ran with it, and he showed that he's a very detail-oriented guy, so he would always preach that the success is kind of in the small details, and I always need to focus on the small parts of things, whether that's lacrosse or whatever it is. And he still, to this day, is always very detail-oriented, and if I do something that's not up to his standards, he'll let me know, and I have to sit there and hear him explain why, like, I should have done it differently, and and it's annoying, but he's great at being a father, obviously, and a coach. And he didn't necessarily know the most about the game of lacrosse because he didn't ever played, and where he's from they didn't have it, but he was more about just how to be a good teammate and how to work hard. And if I was ever like, he didn't care if I scored a bunch of goals, but if I was like not hustling, that's when he would really, I would come off the field and I would know right away. Like, I dogged it today, and the car ride home would be pretty brutal, and I just have him in my ear for however long the car ride was. And again, he didn't know much about the game, but he taught me how to be an athlete and how to be a hard worker. So
yeah. Billboard. Wrap it up. All right, so last question, $1 million question. If you could put something on a billboard, probably a quote, but something on a billboard for billions of people to see every single day, getting out of bed, just you get to put something in front of their face on a billboard every day, what would you put on the billboard?
Oh, that's a good question. Very hard question, though.
First thing that comes to the head.
I already hit on it earlier, I guess, but I'll mention again that for me, at least in my experiences, and heard a bunch of stories of some professional athletes that say the same thing, but pursuit of excellence is where you'll kind of find happiness, or the pursuit of something that you want. So the daily grind and the process is where you'll kind of be happiest, and not the end achievement doesn't necessarily kind of produce happiness. Yeah. So I've heard stories of professional athletes winning like the Super Bowl or gold medals or whatever it is, and they look around and they're like, I really wasn't, I guess, happy in that moment as I thought I was going to be.
Yeah.
So you kind of, I don't know, just if people know that enjoying the process and the pursuit of something is where you're going to be happy, then people will be more happy, I think, on a day-to-day.
All right, so let's fit that on a billboard. Cut it down to a couple words.
Happiness is in the pursuit, not in end achievement. Something like that.
All right. I like it.
All right.
I like it. Any questions you saw that you wish we asked you, or anything?
You guys did a great job. Yeah. Very, very good.
Good.
That was awesome. Good shit.
It was good.
Right.
Appreciate
Sticks.
it. Sticks.
I haven't heard that one in a while.
For episode 6.
Yeah.
Emotional almost. I'm going to cry, I think.
Yeah. It's,
that was fun. I blabble too much? I tend to go on rampages.
Nah, you got it. That's good.
It's just under an hour. It's what we needed time-wise.